All right, guys, this is Greg Collins with the Substitute Teachers Lounge podcast. On this week's episode, I made a reference to a nice math trick that you can do in school. I usually do this no less than middle school. It might be a little bit complicated for your lesser than middle school grades, and it probably goes over best in high school because they think they're smart enough to figure out any type of math trick that you throw at them. But this one usually gets a lot of jaw droppers when you show the solution to the trick. I wouldn't go up to the whiteboard and write this title up there, great math trick for school. And over here, I've got a piece of paper because I'm actually going to do this on a piece of paper in the classroom. But here's what you write at the top of your whiteboard: less than 9,000, comma, 4 digits. You're going to ask the students to pick some numbers, and then you're going to use those numbers to go to complete your trick. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch. I'm going to stop sharing long enough to go to a different screen for the moment. I'm going to go back into this one right here and show you how this works. You're going to go to the front of the classroom and you're going to say, all right, I need one of you to pick out a 4-digit number less than 9,000 and 4 digits. And what I pulled up here is a random number generator. You're not going to do this because the students are actually going to give you a number. But I did this so that we can make this trick random. So I'm going to click generate, and the number it comes up with is 2663. So what I'm going to do is to go back to my whiteboard now and write down the number 2663. 2, 6, 6, 3. Now, behind the scenes, you're going to grab a piece of paper and you're going to write down a number that will come into play later. You're going to fold it up. You're going to give it to a student to hold. Now, in this case, I know by the number that we just wrote down what number I need to write down. I'm going to write it down over here so that you can see that I wrote it down in advance of us getting the other numbers. So here's the number I'm going to write down, and I will explain why to you in just a moment. I'm going to write down 2. I'm going to write down 2. I'm going to write down 6. I'm going to write down 6. And I'm going to write down 1. So 22,661. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to ask another student to pick a 4-digit number. So let's go back to our random generator and pick another 4-digit number. This time we've got 1130. 1130. So now I'm going to go back into my whiteboard and write that number down. 1130. Okay. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm then going to tell them I'm going to write down a number of my own. So they've given you this number from which you created this one and wrote it on a piece of paper and folded it up and didn't show it to anybody. Then they gave you this one, 1130. I'm going to write down a number now. I'm going to write down 8, 8, 6, and 9. That's my 4-digit number. Now, finally, you're going to ask another student to pick one more 4-digit number. So let's go back to our random generator again. Again, you're going to get this from a student. You don't need to have this random number generator, but I pulled it up just so you can tell I didn't have these numbers written down in advance. So let's generate one more 4-digit number. It is 8978. Let's go back to our whiteboard and write down 8978. So 8, it's a bad 8, 8978. Okay. And then the last thing, I'm going to write down another number. Here's the one I'm going to write down. I'm going to write down 1. I'm going to write down 0. I'm going to write down 2. And I'm going to write down 1. So we have 5 4-digit numbers up there. Let's draw a line underneath them because I'm going to add. So here's what you've done so far. You asked them to pick a 4-digit number. This was the first one, 2663. from that, you wrote down this number, 22,661, on a piece of paper. You folded it up and told a student to hang on to it for a while. Then you had them pick another 4-digit number, in this case, 1130. Then you wrote down a number. I wrote down 8869. I'm going to show you how to do this trick in just a moment. And then the final one that you have a student pick is 8978. And then I wrote down one more 5-digit number. So once you have all 5 of those digits written down, all 5 of those 4-digit numbers written down, here's what you do. You tell them to get out their phone or their calculator and add all those 5-digit or those 5 4-digit numbers up. I'm going to do that right now. 2663 plus, and this is about how long it'll take because you're giving the students time to add them up. 1130 plus 8869 plus 8978, and then finally 1021. And those 5-digit numbers will add up to a number. Now, guess what number they add up to? I know you're way ahead of me, and I hope there's some of you math people out there, especially, that have figured out how to do this trick. So those 5-digit numbers add up to 22,661. My goodness, look at that. And then, of course, you ask that student to unfold that piece of paper and show it to all the students. And sure enough, you too had written down 22,661 just from this first number. Their jaws will drop. They'll be amazed. There will be some that try to figure it out. I've had some students say, well, by the time you added your last number, you knew what you needed to add up to. And I said, well, there's no way I could add those that quickly in my head, but there is a trick to this. But they're pretty amazed that you wrote out 22,661, and that's what these 5-digit numbers add up to. Now, here's how it works, okay? They picked this number, 2663, from which you wrote that number on a piece of paper. They also picked this number, okay? From that, you wrote that number. Then they picked this number, and from that, you wrote that number. All right, guys. First of all, here's how you write the first digit number. You take this number, 2663, you add 20,000 to it, or in other words, put a 2 right here, and you subtract 2 from the end of it, 22,661. So I added 20,000, or in other words, I just wrote a 2 in front of the number, and then I subtracted 2 from the end of the number. Obviously, if that had been 70, then my end number would be 68. So you subtract 2 from that last number. And here's why, okay? They wrote down this number right here. My number, the one I wrote it down in such a way that all of these digits add up to 9. Or in other words, they wrote down 1 here, so I wrote down 8. 8 and 1's 9. They wrote down 1 here. 8 and 1's 9. They wrote down a 3 here. 6 and 3 is 9. They wrote down a 0 here. 0 and 9 is 9. That is a fancy way of saying that those two numbers add up to 9, 9, 9, 9, right? And I did the same thing down here. The student will pick the number 8978. I wrote down 1021, and you can see that those sets of digits add up to 9, 8 and 1, 9 and 0, 7 and 2, 8 and 1. So those two sets of numbers also add up to 9, 9, 9, 9. Now, I hope you can tell by looking at these two 999 numbers, if you add those together, that's basically just 2 short of 20,000. That is 9999 adds up to 20,000 minus 2. 20,000 minus 2. Sound familiar? I added 20,000 to this big number over here, and I subtracted 2. So since you're basically adding 20,000 to the first number minus 2, that's why you put a 2 in front of 22663, and that's why you subtract 2, because it's 20,000 minus 2, okay? That's the trick that they're going to love. You learn how to do that trick, and you will be asked to show them. The great thing about it is, if you don't have anything too important that day, show them at the beginning of class and make them wait till the end of class for you to show them the solution. Now, to be honest, there's going to be some students that still don't understand it, even when you explain it to them, but that's a neat trick to do. I like to interact with the students. The gist of our podcast today was to, keep some things in your back pocket to show the students when you have a little bit of time at the end of the class. So that's the magic trick for the day. Glad you could join us. Hope you can share that one and get a big kick in the classroom. Talk to you later.